the facelifted Mercedes GLS 450. We've been driving this for a couple of days. You saw me in the previous segment. That's how I got there in this absolute S-Class of Mercedes SUVs. What makes it the absolute, well, big boy in the lineup? What's the tech like? What's the design like? Has it changed? Is it worth your money? And is it the absolute pinnacle of luxury? That's what we're going to find out on this episode of Tech Today. Now, what's different with the GLS? If you look at the front, of course, there's this new grille, and this is really an opinion divider in tech and auto terms, because I think that Mercedes, BMW, Audi, all of these cars are heading towards their electric design, because a lot of them have very successful, very powerful electric products, and the design language for Gen Z and millennials is moving towards the electric way. But that's only, well, my take. But we see that there's a lot of changes over here as well. You see that there's Mercedes branding on this particular headlight. Now, if you go to the side of the car, you realize that this is a massive car, 5.2 meters, incredibly long. I will tell you a bit when we're driving about what it's like turning in this car, but it's on 21-inch wheels. And honestly, they manage to really deal with all those shocks quite well when we're on the highway. When we get on bumpy roads, it's a different story. You come to the back of the car and of course, it's a very sharp look on the GLS. This is the S-Class of Mercedes SUVs. You're paying top dollar. It starts at 1.3 crores. So you want it to be able to compete with the X7. You want it to be able to compete with the Range Rovers. Does it manage to do that? Well, one touch and you open the boot. And there's a bunch of buttons over here that can make you lazy, but it's also technology and engineering making your life a whole lot easier. So if you want to put all the seats down, there's a button called All. The seats have begun to go down. Now you'll also have these seats going down, and you'll have plenty of room over here. So I'm going to talk about the technology and everything that happens on the inside, but first, let's get to the front seat and take it for a little bit of a spin and tell you a little bit more. Okay, so we're in the front seat of the GLS, and honestly, this is not a place you'll find yourself in often unless you're a driving enthusiast like me. This is a very, very commanding seat position. You can see that bump in the bonnet, that very nice, well, dual bump that makes it look like a very sporty, muscular sort of SUV, which it is. Now, if you're driving the GLS on a road like this, which is fairly even, it's all right. But the minute it picks up some speed, because of that, well, mildly hybrid and the integrated starter motor and that little bit of electric push that it gets, it's got no shortage of torque, no shortage of power. It's a 3-liter petrol engine that gives you the sort of grunt you want to hear. But if you're driving this a bit faster, you realize that there are a bunch of bumps on the road which you do end up feeling. So it is slightly bumpy, there's a bit of body roll, but then you're supposed to drive this, well, maybe not as a sports car, because it is very tempting with 0 to 100 in 6.1 seconds. That said, I don't think it's like the EQS with the rear axle tilt, especially when you're taking these sort of turns. It would be useful in a car which is this long, this high, and this wide, but honestly, it's quite a pleasure to drive. The cabin is largely insulated and quite cool, not only because of the blinds in the back seat, but also because there's this coating, a UV coating, which means that all the harmful rays of the sun aren't really affecting you. That mild hybrid powertrain means that you get better fuel economy, and it also means better performance. This car, with all the technology features and German efficiency, German engineering, is an absolute pleasure to drive. Let me stop right here. I have to tell you about a bunch of these features. This is transparent bonnet. What you can see in front of you right now over here is actually some crazy algorithm, some AI as well, stitching together different wide-angle shots from under. Cameras under the car, which are stitching together what is the view under my bonnet. Perhaps one of the top 3, top 4 infotainment systems, operating systems out there in the market. Active lane keep assist is right here. Active blind spot assist is here as well. These are ADAS features. Collision avoidance is what they call it over here. Most importantly, ambient lighting. You can go from Malibu sunset to ocean blue to a complete chrome shine, this white finish. the lights respond instantaneously, jungle green as well. And then you have leather over here, Maybach inspired. Well, look at these lined patterns, AC vents which look like, if you woke me up, I think this was from a Maybach. You have a Burmester sound system over here, which is absolutely amazing, mind-boggling stuff. There's one more feature that I have to talk about, which is really cool, right? This is how you use technology, science, and make everyone's lives so much easier. There's this button here called Position Seat Automatically. So what if I am 5 feet 2 inches, right? How should I be seated in an optimal condition? You hit this button, start positioning, and there you go. Right from the under thigh support to the wheel, to my headrest, to my back position, to the amount of leg room I have over here, which I can barely fit now. It's positioning everything by itself. But the real magic is in the back seat. Not the third row, I'll tell you, but the second row. And that's where we're going to head next, to the second row, which is actually where the big boss seat is. Let's see what it's really like sitting in the back seat and actually being driven around in the S-Class of SUVs. The big boss seat, where you expect to be sat in the GLS if you actually purchase this car. Honestly, this is where you're going to spend most of the time, unless you are me and prefers driving. And if you're just being driven around, then you want this over here. You have these 11.3-inch screens, 2 of them, which do a fairly decent job. You can adjust your seat. The Burmester speakers are right here as well. You can also recline a little bit more if the third row is folded down. That third row means not a lot of place for anyone. Maybe the kids in the family might be happy sat at the back, but someone of my size, my height, or any normal size adult will not necessarily be happy for long journeys. What if I told you that there's a Samsung connection? There is a screen right here. You have one more screen to control everything, right? Everything that I'll be doing here will be mirrored onto this screen. And I really want to know how this tech works, because this, according to me, is a Samsung SM-T260, a tablet which was supposed to have launched in 2022. Oh, the shoot's over. I was taking a little bit of a nap, but that's a power nap to help me wrap up exactly what's happening with the Mercedes GLS on these massive 21-inch wheels. An absolute pleasure to be driven around in. It starts at 1.3 crores and then of course it goes up. Now I'm going to be honest with you. The direct competitors are the X7 and to a large extent slightly more inexpensive Volvo XC90. And then you have the Range Rovers, but much smaller ones. If you're in the JLR lineup, you have the Defender, which is a big car if you want an off-roader. My 2 pence being the X7 is a lot sportier and is, well, a car which is honestly ready for an apples-to-apples comparison with the GLS. This is luxury. If you believe in the Mercedes brand, there's nothing that is lacking in this particular car. Personally, I think the Volvo XC90 is a great selection as well. And if I wanted to get into my off-roading DNA, then it would have to be the Defender. But this is the perfect mix of modern and classic. This is the perfect mix of luxury and off-roader. A few things can be fixed, and maybe if it was a little bit cheaper, it could be, well, something that we could recommend very openly. It passes the tech check, it passes the vibe check. This is the Mercedes GLS 450 on Tech Today.
If you like the video, do like, comment, share and subscribe.